Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. National Housing Party weekly live stream. We're going to be covering the local councils that have gone in debt all around the country. My council in particular have got serious problems. And yeah, just waiting for Paul Rimmer to come along. And hello, John.
Yeah, hello. I'm here. So yeah. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Big John here, I'm Pat, as you've heard. And you know, this is serious, this is serious. It's on a serious level. It's affecting everyone. They're expecting next year at least another 15 councils going bankrupt. And
how many?
15 next year at least.
Wow.
As well as the ones already gone bankrupt, and there's about a dozen or so gone bankrupt the past couple of years. Yeah. I mean, some of the boroughs in London are consistently in debt, and one of the councils is going to put a 15% increase on its council tax bill. 15%. And you know, I've been very vocal, me. I have been very vocal. We have the wrong people in the councils. It's simple as we don't have the correct kind of people in our councils now. About 18 months, 2 years ago, a prominent activist, Paul the Boots O'Rourke in Oldham, he did a little video on the market. Consultancy fees. So a consultant is brought in. So the leader wants to do something. The consultant's brought in to advisor and all that lot. And the fees for Oldham are in the tens of millions for consultancy fees and stuff like that. We just have people in our councils who do not know what they're doing. We have people in our councils who just tick boxes. And we have people in our councils who have got no respect for anyone or on the rob. And across the country, there's millions of pounds of fraud being done through council workers, council employees, whatever, millions of pounds in fraud. And we have the wrong people running our councils, guys. We do. It's logical sense. If you're in a fishing town, let's say you're in a fishing town, you'd want somebody on the council who knows about fish. You know what I mean? You don't put somebody in charge of the council who does steel works when there's no steel at the fisher place. You know what I mean? You put the right kind of people in places in the council. School governors are already is a good step to get into the council. Proves that you care about things like education and stuff like that. And it was somebody. Pat had knocked on a door, a woman called Margaret. Pat had knocked on a door, then she contacted me through email. And I went round again, talked to her, she agreed with a leaflet and that. She remembered Pat. And then she said to me, you know, I'm not clever enough to be a councillor, but I'm a school governor. That's what she said. And it's the same kind of thing. As a school governor, you sit round a table with other people and come to decisions about the school, financial decisions, and stuff like that. So she would have been a good ideal candidate for the council. Again, if you've got somebody who lives in your town, he's been a shopkeeper for 30 years, you'd expect him to know a bit about buying stuff and price of goods and stuff like that. His skills would be good within the council and stuff like that. But we don't have that now. We have people who tick boxes. We literally have people who have got a pride flag and people have made them councillors and they haven't got a clue about anything else. We've got people of ethnic minority background who are just put there for a show to show that we're all diverse and that, but they haven't got a clue what we're doing. I'm going to be brutal honest. And that's practically every council in the United Kingdom. I feel sorry for Pat. His councils in London are the worst. For that. Am I not correct, Pat? That one of Richard Everett's killers is now one of the gang who killed him is now a councillor in London. Am I correct?
Correct. One of the people who was arrested in the gang who killed Richard Everett became a Labour Party local councillor. Don't know if he still is, but he definitely was. But let me add a few things to that, what you said. I mean, I live in Camden, which is one of the biggest boroughs in London, and it's a central London borough. And, you know, I'm hearing whispers that Camden Council are going to go bankrupt next year. What you know, I'm not a fan of the Conservative Party at all, right? You know, I consider the Conservative Party just as bad as the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrat Party. However, in London, the Labour-run Camden Council, they're on the verge of going bankrupt next year. It's on the cards. Our council tax is so much higher than there's not many left, but there's one or two Conservative-run boroughs, and their council tax is much lower. And like you said, John, you know, Camden are in, you know, it's billions in debt. And they're still like putting spend like it must cost about hundreds of thousands of pounds to do a rainbow zebra crossing. They're doing all these rainbow zebra crossings everywhere. They're literally I'm going to be putting this on my leaflet. They are literally doing new cycle lanes everywhere, like on a weekly basis. Every single month, you just see them digging up the road doing a new cycle. Like, where are they getting this money from? I think it's corruption. I think that there's people getting backhanders for the construction companies just to create work, and they're billions in debt. So, you know, it's all going to be exposed one day. You can't hide it from the public forever. And I'm going to put on my leaflet, I want an investigation into these non-stop roadworks what are taking place in Camden, and it's causing so much disruption for people trying to get around. And but yeah, I mean, it's you know, Birmingham City Council's gone bankrupt. Croydon's gone bankrupt. Is it Nottingham's gone bankrupt? What's it like in Liverpool, Paul?
Well, the word that I would use, Pat, is waste. These people, through inefficiency, mismanagement, and their own little sort of agendas, waste billions, literally billions of taxpayers' money. When they issue, I don't know if you've heard this, it's a Section 144. That means the council can no longer fund the services it's obliged legally to provide. And that what they ask the government first of all is for, can they raise more funds? Now, there's three ways that councils raise funds. One is through the government grant, and in metropolitan areas, that's by far the biggest amount. Liverpool gets 80% of its funding direct from central government. It won't be that high in councils down south. It's like a poverty thing which decides that. But metropolitan areas, metropolitan boroughs in London, because they have to provide so many services, they'll get extra grants off the government. The other way they get money is through business rates. But this is problematic because of the pressure on the high street and everything's going onto line. And councils have not encouraged businesses in their cities. It hasn't been the focus of their attention. So business rates are stagnant. So the third way the council tries to raise money is through the council tax. And as you're probably aware, Pat, the council tax is controlled. I mean, up until very recently, you couldn't put it up by more than 2%. Now the government has given them more leeway and saying you can put it up by as much as 5%. Now, but you talk about Birmingham City Council there, which is one of the, I think it's the biggest council in the country. Don't forget, London separated into separate councils. That Birmingham Council, only 19% of its population is engaged in work which pays taxes. You think about that. The population of Birmingham, the adult population, 81% are dependent on benefits. And that is a direct result of the demographic change in Birmingham, going from a British city to a mainly Muslim city. And these ethnic minority groups are so parasitic on the state. It's absolutely incredible. So the council are unable to get money off these people to raise the council tax. So they're faced with this problem that they can't finance the services they're supposed to provide. That's why the issue is Section 144. It's basically a plea for help from the central government. Nottingham have done it, as you said. Birmingham have done it. I mean, since 2018, a dozen councils have done it, and they're doing it more rapidly now all the time. And there's a heck of a lot more in line to do this, and now to Section 144. Now, before 2018, there was only one council that had ever done this. So it's quite novel that these councils are all becoming bankrupt. Now, what's really hitting them in their budget is something called social care. Now, you might think that relates to old people who can't, get around or need support, and the council's providing that, people who've paid taxes all their lives and merit support. But it's not the expansion in social care, and social care has gone up 15% apparently in the last 4 years for adults and 18% for children. The reason social care has gone through the roof, the cost, is simply because of immigration. Immigrants are coming in and simply they're imposing themselves on the council. They're coming in and just demanding more and more services, translators, housing, education, health services, care services, legal services. The whole councils now seem to be orientated towards providing services for immigrants, not for old English British people who merit these services, but they're all being taken up by foreigners now. And this is costing an arm and a leg. We just can't afford it anymore. Now, not only are they actually switching all their funding towards these immigrant groups, the people that are employing, as John just said there, are simply boxed. They've been ticked in a box. They've got to be from a certain ethnicity. They've got to speak languages like Somali or Arabic in order to sort of provide services for these immigrant communities, and then you've got the whole the gay, lesbian agenda, the homosexual agenda. You've got the whole sort of question of equal pay feminism. Now, like the other criteria, who provides the most efficient services for the council? Now, without being specific here, they say white heterosexual males are the best workers that they can get, but they don't want them. What they want is Muslim, lesbian, disabled people who can tick boxes and who do not provide the quality of employment that the council needs. And this is not just at the bottom level. This is in terms of the bureaucracy. So everything's being held up in the bureaucracy. The people who run in the IT now in councils are immigrants. These are being employed to run the IT. I mean, the reason Birmingham's gone bankrupt is because their IT's gone haywire, because it was all, they were putting people who are coming from Pakistan straight into the IT department of the council. And it's all gone, this is all the insanity of it. And all this is like, the Labour Party is so committed to all this insanity, rather than employ people who can do the job. As John said, they employ people who can tick the boxes. And these boxes have nothing to do with your ability to provide a service for the people who are actually paying the council taxes. Now, the truth is that 19% of the population in Birmingham who are working and paying taxes, they come predominantly from either older ethnic communities like the old West Indian community, or from the indigenous British community. They're the people who are paying the taxes, but they're the people who are not receiving services anymore. It's their services that are being cut. So where's it all going to end? Because the problem is now they can't borrow money, and they're desperately, what the council are doing now, Pat? They're trying to sell all their assets off, all these bankrupt councils, and they're selling their assets, to fire sale to their mates. I mean, we had that in Liverpool. I've heard about it in Bolton. They sell them to people they either know in the mosque, or and everything's being sold at knockdown prices. I mean, it just goes on and on, the scandal. But the essential problem is this: the British people are being cut out of the political process. Rather than having councillors who can actually challenge what's going on and prepared to speak out. They're just party hacks. The Labour Party, not only do they box tick about the people they employ, they box tick about people who stand. And it doesn't matter if you can't speak English. It doesn't matter if you can't represent your constituency. You get that label, Labour Party, and you get elected. And they've chosen you because you tick boxes. This is an unfolding catastrophe in local government. I mean, everyone focuses on Westminster and what's happening there, but most of the government in the country actually takes place at local level, and it's now become a farce. And and if Labour get in power, it'll be 10 times worse because they're committed to this nonsense.
Well, this is what I was going to say, and the bad thing about it, Labour are about to take over the country, and they're the ones that most of these boroughs what have gone bankrupt are mostly Labour controlled. But going back to Camden Council, you know, where my mum lives, they empty the rubbish twice a week, and I'm like, what? Why is it twice a week? I don't understand that. And if you leave like rubbish out and it's not like, you know, the foxes can get into it. There's so many foxes in London, you know. So you got to store it up in your house, all this old rubbish, and you can't really leave it outside. And they're collecting the rubbish every 2 weeks. I mean, I don't know what it's like for everybody else. I mean, it'd be interesting to know in the chat how regularly the council collect their. But also going back to what you said, Paul, about these, I've heard it's the childcare. That's the main one. What's crippled most councils. And presumably they're paying for childcare for all these like single mother parents everywhere, you know, with a few kids. I don't know what the details are, but I've heard that is the main.
You think, Pat, why the population of children, which was stable in Britain, has suddenly exploded, and so the needs have suddenly exploded? Why is that? It's only due to immigration. They're coming in with immigrant families.
I think the welfare state's got a lot to do with it because people, they just got no what's the word? What's the word? I forgot.
Responsibility.
Yeah, there's no consequences. That's it. There's no consequences because of the welfare state. You can just go around having kids all over the place, and that's a big debate. You know, the welfare state replaced Christianity, where Christianity there's consequences. You have sex outside marriage, it's going to affect your life. You know, people.
It's totally immoral what they're doing. The morality's collapsed. But the problem is this, right? In the past, the councils were geared towards providing services to old elderly people who were becoming more needy, obviously, as their bodies began to decay. Now they've had to abandon the elderly and refocus on children because there's such an abundance of these. You think of children that have come from these. Now, I saw a figure recently which says everybody who claims asylum in Europe costs the state €250,000 per annum. €250,000. That is in the total provision of services, benefits, and welfare provision. Every single asylum claimant costs €250,000, which is about what? Over £200,000 each one. So there's a whole industry in providing services for these people, and the councils have jumped on the bandwagon. But I mean, unless we assert ourselves and say, look, we paid the taxes. Look, you're our councils. You're supposed to be looking after our elderly. I mean, in the past, the councils had good environmental services. In Liverpool, they stopped cutting the grass. As you say, Pat, they're reducing rubbish collections. There used to be educational facilities and educational colleges for adult learning. They're all being shut down. The services that we were provided with in the past are being closed off because everything is having to focus on the immigrant population. Now you think, how many immigrants have come in? 15 million since 1997. 80% of them never work. They just depend on the welfare state. They're like sucking the blood out of the welfare state. Our welfare state that we've paid in to look after ourselves and our parents and our children and our needs, we're not getting what we're paying for. We're paying taxes now simply to finance the immigrant invasion at every level. It's absolutely crazy, Pat.
Let me just I just want to expand on a couple of bits there that I heard. So social care, Vinny said it, and I've done a lot on this. We had the social care bill earlier on in the year or last year. Not one mention of cousin marriage, which is a massive issue within the United Kingdom now, because we know that more than 50% of Pakistanis still marry the first cousins. It's happening in Oldham. We have to pay money, so we have to pay to look after all these disabled kids. You know, it adds up. I'm not saying it's the biggest part of it, but that can be part of it. You know, but the councils, they overlook things. Like in Oldham, we've got 30 chicken shops on the two main high streets in Oldham. And nobody in the world is telling me that everybody who works in them chicken shops is on the books and paying tax, because they're not. I would say more than 50% of the employees in them shops aren't paying taxes, so that money's not going to the government. The government liable for letting gangsters launder money through our system as well. And I know this because they had a whistleblower, a nationally recognised whistleblower on telling me that on my screen, so I know. And obviously the mismanagement of the councils, the bots ticking, it all goes, and the councils are getting so bad now. And if we had a map, you'd be able to see the graph where they used to be good and they're going down on a slant. Immigration, no integration, all these things add up. A few years ago, when I first came on the journey, Oldham Council was giving Muslim communities 19 weeks of the like when you pay council tax, if you're out of the country for so long, it's illegal. But our council was giving the Muslim community 19 weeks in a year where they was abroad, and letting them stay abroad for 19 weeks. Honestly, guys, I've done videos and I've put the information up this before. So all that money being wasted. And it seems that now, like Paul says, a lot of the money doesn't go to the ethnic British people. It goes to everyone else who's just come in the country. And, of course, to the rest of the countries around the world that we're not doing, you know, we're causing, we're involved in war and Ukraine and all that. So much why we have to stand up, stand in local elections and stuff like that. I mean, what skills have I got for the council? Well, a good part of my life has been spent in health and safety in the workplace, and I consider myself very knowledgeable. And I have staff trained. I've trained people to follow procedures and stuff like that, which is another thing that's needed within our councils. And I'm good at working as a team and on my own. So I've got skills to bring to the council, and I can talk to people, and I'm honest. You know what I mean? Them are good skills. But I think my health and safety skills will go well when I get into the council, because we have a big health and safety department in the council, and they need proper people on it. But honestly, guys, we need to stand up, start standing in local elections, getting involved in our communities to big us strong. You know, I can go on about Oldham, but the leader, Arut Shah, a best friend is a convicted gangster, and he's Dale Cregan's getaway driver in some escapade he did, drug dealer, all that kind of stuff. A brother is a convicted drug dealer, and another one of her best friends is a convicted kidnapper and sexual torturer. Honestly, these are the people that she walks around with. You know, now, you know, I've known people who've done wrong things in my life, but I would not know 3 people like that, me. I would not know them. They won't be stood next to me. And there's a picture, and these 3 people are there with Labour rosettes on when they were helping a campaign. And, you know, hardly anything gets said. Nothing gets said to her. If that had happened to me in the council, they'd have kicked me off the council. And I'd be all over the front pages of every newspaper going, but I'm not. You know, but she's not. I would be, but she's not. And these are the kind of people we have running our councils. And I'm going to go back now to Liverpool and Joe Anderson and the 100 million, guys, 100 million, not a million, not 1.5 million, not 10 million, 100 million that's gone from Liverpool Council because of corruption. To you, Paul.
This corruption is widespread, John. It's not just in Liverpool. I mean, it's been exposed in Liverpool, but it's not just the corruption, which is rampant. It's the corruption and the fact that the councils are making bad decisions all the time. The people who run the council, basically, they're not up to the job because of this box ticking, as you said, this vetting. That only PC people or people they want can actually stand now. You see, the party system has wrecked local government in this country, the Labour Party especially. We need independents to stand. We need independent voices. We need new parties. We need new leaders. Now, just look at this one agenda, never mind the corruption, this agenda of diversity and equality. All the Labour councils now have massive diversity and equality departments. And the people they employ, the welfare officers, council officers, are paid huge salaries, £100,000 plus, to go round, as you said, box ticking, making sure that the council labour force includes all sorts of minority groups. And again, they're not focused on whether these people can deliver services. They're focused on the fact that they can tick the boxes. They're looking always for issues like racism, homophobia, sexism. These are what the council spend their time looking for. And this isn't what people want. People want their bins emptied. They want the old people looking after. They want environmental services provided. And the council are making bad decisions all the time. They're wasting the taxes we give them on nonsense. Now, it's got so bad now. I mean, I've just said that a dozen councils which have put in a section 144 saying they're bankrupt. And these are massive councils like Nottingham and Birmingham and so on. But there's a whole welter of councils who are on the edge of declaring bankruptcy. Now, Michael Gove, the Tories, they've got no money. We can't borrow money now because the interest rates are too high. But they've said they're going to give the councils next year an extra 6.5%. That's above inflation increase in their funding because it's now so desperate at council level. But the central government itself is actually in a fiscal hell. So all these issues are coming to a head now. You see, when the economy is booming or when they could borrow money at zero interest, easy to borrow money, you could hide all this nonsense. But as they say, the CAC is hitting the fan now, and all the data is coming out. How do you think this is all going to end, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just, before I forget, in my ward, when Labour Party took part in the election last year, which I stood in, I mean, all they did was they put out a leaflet. It was a big leaflet, well presented leaflet, looked like it cost quite a lot of money. And all they said on it was all the stuff they'd bought, all the stuff that they'd put money into, but they'd only got that money from the government, so they haven't actually done anything, you know. And they've got the council in more debt. But there's two driving factors why this is all happening, and we need to remember who benefits from all of it, right? So the two driving factors is immigration and the welfare state. So the bankers, they want the welfare state because they want all the political parties, all the councils in debt to them. And the Conservative Party traditionally are not a welfare state party, but they cannot win an election now unless they promise the population they're going to carry on with the NHS, etc. Otherwise, they'll lose the election, because they won't have any chance of winning it. So they've become dependent on this debt, which the bankers are in control of. And, you know, the welfare state also attracts the immigrants as well, as we all know. So they're the two driving factors, and the bankers are the ones who benefit from it, because our whole country is in debt to the bankers. And that's you know, and traditionally, you know, we was a Christian country, and I don't think the bankers had so much power like maybe 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Now they are in total control of our country, and yeah, that's my analysis of it. But just off topic, the Epstein Island list is going to be released in 2024 apparently, and you know, we're going to see some interesting names on there, which you know, potentially have been being blackmailed for years because they visited this island. They didn't know what they was getting into. And I'm sure the bankers and all that were involved with it as well. You know, Mossad controlling it. And but yeah, apparently they're going to release the list in January 2024.
Now, the bankers want debt, obviously, Pat, because debt means profits for them. It means they get interest payments and they get power over institutions. But if the councils become bankrupt and can't finance their debt, or governments become bankrupt, that hits banks as well. So banks need a level of efficiency. The sheer waste in councils is, you see, the problem is we don't have an active citizen population that is monitoring what's going on and is contributing to the governance of this country. We've lost this engagement with politics. The parties have taken it over and they've become self-serving institutions. It's all for the benefit of the Labour Party in these councils. Everything they do is to benefit their political party and their constituency. So then the voice of the people is being shut out. And because these people are guaranteed seats and guaranteed control, they don't actually listen to the people. I mean, and we've all done this. We've been out on local elections and we've spoken to local people. What are the issues? What have your Labour councillors said? Have you contacted your Labour councillors to get a resolution of issues over littering or anything? They all say, we've never met our Labour councillor. We don't know what our Labour councillor is. The local councillors, which are supposed to serve the local community, are anonymous. They never turn up. They're not. They don't. All they do is collect money off the council, go to meetings, tick that they've attended, and collect money. They're absolutely useless. But if people don't break the habit of voting for the big parties, they'll just keep taking them for a ride. That's why we exist. The National Housing Party of the UK, people like John Lawrence, Pat, myself, we exist to challenge these people who are abusing our communities and abusing the democratic process. John, you're an activist. You interact with people. What do they think of the local Labour Party?
The same thing, Paul. The same thing. The last election, I were in election thing, and the guy walks in, I'm voting for you. I've never seen a Labour candidate. Knocks on my door 3 times. That's all he said, and I'm voting for you. That's all he said. He said he never seen a Labour candidate. In the Wirral as well, you don't see them in some of them estates, and Angie will say you don't see them or anything, and they don't. They've got it too comfy. They think they're on it, you know what I mean? But the time's changing, guys. I don't want anyone to think that, like, we haven't got a chance or we can't do things. We start off at local level. We can push for major change. If we get Nick Buckley in as Greater Manchester Mayor, there's going to be fantastic change. He's going to be forcing reinvestigations of rape gang investigations, and like everyone's really, yeah, I will. Lawyers, he's going to get lawyers to deport the Rochdale Three. He's going to be paying lawyers to get them all deported. He's not going to be, oh yeah, I won't do it because I'm politically correct. He's going to do these things, and these are the kind of people we need leading our councils and our cities and our towns.
When's the election for the Manchester Mayor?
It'll be the same general election. It's next year. The election is next year for his position.
By next year. Shout out to Nick Buckley. Everyone in the chat, everyone watching, please share all his stuff on social media, because he is a genuine bloke, and he agrees with a lot of the stuff we campaign on. And you know, he's against the LibLabCon woke establishment, basically. So if you can, please share his stuff everywhere if you can, and hopefully he'll get a really good result. But going back to what people say, I mean, in my ward, you know, I do come across a lot of people who've continually voted Labour, and what I say to them, I say, look, Labour win this election every single time, right? They've won this area where I live in for like the last 50 years. And I say to them, nobody ever challenges them for the election. I said, the best thing you can do is vote for me. The more votes I get, the harder Labour are going to work for you, because otherwise they're just complacent. And like I said, the leaflet they put out, all they said is what they spent the government grant money on. That's all they've done. And it's like, you know, anyone could do it, what they're doing. So, you know, but people are sick of Labour. They're absolutely sick of them. I mean, I think it's going to be massive. This next general election, I think that the vote is going to go down so much for Labour and Conservative. I don't know if Labour will win it. They might not even win it. Who knows? I mean, what we do know is the Conservatives are going to come out with more and more lies that they're going to stop immigration. They're going to stop the votes. They're not going to be able to do it. And, you know,
Unless they leave the conventions.
I want to ask you two a question. I personally think, for me, where I'm standing in my election, I think it would be better if Labour are in government, because by the time my election comes in 2026, Labour are going to be hated so much that will get me more votes. So what? But that's just my personal thing for my local election. What do you two think would be better? What would be worse, Labour or Conservative winning the next election?
Politics never works out like that, Pat. It never works out like that. Politics is very unpredictable, and you get new forces coming all the time. You get new issues arising, and they can change the whole agenda overnight. Now, today, I think it was in Scotland, they passed a budget in Scotland, and they're putting the taxes up on people.
I heard
the income tax in Scotland. Now, next year at the council elections, all the Labour councils want to put up the council tax by 5%. Now, 5% of like £2,000 is another £100 on top of the £2,000 you're all paying. It's a lot of money. They keep putting up the council tax. In Liverpool, it just goes up and up and up. It's gone up 50% over the past 10 years. And this is hitting people hard, the working poor. This is another tax burden on the people. So tax, although people are talking about services, they're talking about waste in the council, they're talking about bad decisions in the council, they're talking about these agendas, these politically correct agendas, which cost a fortune. The issue is going to come back to tax, because the money's not there now, Pat. They can't borrow the money anymore, and they're having difficulty selling the assets. So they're going to have to tax us more. And we're all under pressure already. We've all faced inflation. People are under enormous financial pressure. We could be heading into a recession next year. It's going to become, Pat, it's like a pressure cooker. It's building up on the system, and people are going to start to feel it. And someone's got to have the answers. And because we speak the truth, and we're not afraid to say what the issues are and what I think the reason the Tories have moved so much on immigration, just in their rhetoric, is because what people like us have been saying. I mean, you said we need to leave the UN Convention on Human Rights, 1951, which has allowed this explosion in refugees. The European Convention of Human Rights, which has allowed this explosion of refugees. We have to leave these international conventions. When you said that, Pat, nobody else was saying it. Now it's becoming common currency. People are bringing it up all the time.
Well, I was surprised. I even heard Nigel Farage say the other day, he was only talking about Palestinian refugees, but he was literally saying, look, we're at a stage now where we're going to have to start saying no to refugees. And that's quite a thing for him to say that, because people like him, they've always said, oh yeah, we must accept refugees, and that is the root of the problem. And until a sizable party with some power gets near the winning elections and stuff, who actually say that, it's never going to change this crisis, because the whole world is heading to our country because they want to be asylum seekers, and that's how they're getting in, and it's not going to stop.
You asked me. So what's my thing? I'm not mithered, me. I'd rather not have the Labour Party, but I'm not mithered who's in, because I know that Labour and Conservative, the Lib Dems, are losing votes in Oldham, and they have been for the past few years. And we can look at a national level. We know that there's more people standing up as independents, and in other places they're losing votes. You know, you had to get like well over 1,000 votes to get in now. One time in Oldham, it's less than 1,000 now. It's less than 1,000. That's good for me. That is good for me. It's good for the independents, good for the other hyper-local political parties. We had great success with Failsworth Independents. They went from 1 councillor to 5 in 3 years.
Well, John, your next election could be groundbreaking, yeah, because just let the viewers know that the Tories managed to win there's 3 seats up for grabs in John's ward, and for the first time, Conservatives won those seats. 3 Muslim candidates won it. Very small vote. Like, what did they won? Like, they got about 800 votes each, didn't they? And
the highest were 900, lowest were about 7 something.
So this was a first. So these 3 candidates for Tories got in Hollywood, in Oldham, where John stands. First time, it's always been Labour. And then they've all been sacked by the Tory party.
They've all been suspended off the Tory party. And one of them was the Tory chairman in Oldham for going to the Palestine march. And I'm using it. I'm using that, weaponising it for my leaflet.
Of course. So what are the electorate going to think? They voted in the Tories, and then they suspended the candidates they voted for. It's all up for grabs, John. You got such a good chance, mate.
I know. People just don't realise, but it is, honestly, guys, the things are changing. Simple as, and it's going to be good. It's going to be good for us. It's going to be good for me. It's going to be good for the party. But yeah, we've got to get that corruption out. Paul said about the diversity. That's across the board. The NHS has 100 grand a year diversity managers. The police have 100 grand a year diversity officers, and then they're taught diversity thing. All that money wasted. Honestly, you just couldn't make it up, and it's shocking. And the physical decline in my time. We used to have our own Crown Court. We used to have our own county court. We used to have our own magistrates. None of them. The county court now is a little tiny office in like one floor of an house. That's what it is now, the county court. We don't have a magistrate and we don't have a Crown Court. We have no money for them because we've wasted it, squandered it, sold all the housing for mosques and synagogues and temples, and we've got no housing now. It's just ridiculous. A council couldn't make it up. A little thing in our council, they built an Indian temple on ground that was supposed to be for housing in the area that needs housing most in Oldham. Honestly, if you're going to make that kind of decision, that is a numpty, negative decision. That's not right, and it shouldn't be allowed. But diversity, wanting all photographs next to Indian temple, honestly, I would not have had it built. I would have protested. If I were in that area and I knew, I'd have protested it.
It's time, John, for the British people to assert themselves again. That's why we've created the National Housing Party of the UK. We've got to have a vehicle where our voices are heard and that we start to make the decisions again. Now, this is happening not just in Britain. This is happening right across Europe. You're seeing these parties like the Alternative for Deutschland, which has now just won another election in East Germany and is going to really rock the boat next year. You see a national rally in France. Marine Le Pen's party is way ahead in the opinion polls. It's building up strength and it's challenging the ruling elite, which has neglected the French people for so long. You see the chaos in Spain now. Spain there's just constant demos and trouble. And the Vox party there is staying there because the people have got to assert themselves. We're fed up of being used as cash cows for the elite. We work hard, we pay taxes, our money is taken from us. They want more and more taxes. We've got all this nonsense about green taxes. We haven't even mentioned the green agenda. And we're seeing once they get our money, they waste it, they make bad decisions, and they prioritize not the needy amongst the British community, but foreigners coming in. It's like a father, I always say this, neglects his own family and gives the money to another family and lets his own family starve. His own family would have to assert themselves and said, look, you've got a responsibility to your own family first. Our local councils have got a responsibility to the local population first, to their own elderly in their community, not to the whole world. And that's true at national level as well. But they'll only change the way they do things if we vote differently and we assert ourselves. And the only way we can truly do that is to have an effective political party. That's why I would say to you, get on board with the National Housing Party of the UK, stand as a candidate. We'll support you. We'll provide leaflets and campaigning. We've got to create momentum so that we start to challenge the ruling elite. We have to break their power, break their monopoly. Now, there are issues with the Reform Party. Pat just mentioned it. We started to say, no more refugees. Not vet refugees or process refugees. No more refugees. We've taken far too many. That's it. Finished. Over. We're pulling out of these international conventions. Pat was the first person to say that and to really flag it up on the internet. I mean, we've got a Twitter account of 40,000 people. It gets out there. And now Reform is starting to say it. Nigel Farage has just said, no more refugees. We can't take anyone. We can't afford them. €250,000 each, 200 grand each as soon as they arrive here. This is bleeding us dry. Pat, how is this going to all finish up?
Well, just back to Farage. The reason I said about Farage is because he is part of the establishment, in my opinion, and he only said it about Palestinian refugees. And he's on record for saying we should take in 30,000 Syrian refugees a year, you know. And to be honest with you, these people make me sick, people like Farage, because they won't have him in his house. He expects the working class to deal with it when there's 1 million people waiting for council flats, you know. And he doesn't want to say no more refugees because I don't know why they don't want to say it. I've got no idea. They just cannot bring themselves to say it.
Politically correct. They don't want to upset the minority. You know what I mean? It's simple, hasn't it? I've said in many of my videos, we have to upset the minority. I said it to Nick Buckley the other day on a little interview with him. There's no accountability from minority communities. There isn't for the rape gangs. There is not. Nobody's telling me that they have accepted responsibility. The deputy council leader did a 2-minute fucking speech. Sorry, a 2-minute speech on the abuse of 500 girls in Oldham. 2 minutes, guys. 2 minutes. That's all he did.
Tell you what, I'm going to put on my leaflet, right? So 5 years ago in Camden, there was 30,000 people on the waiting list for council flats. And do you know what they did? They took everyone off the council list, 30,000 people, and they said, right, you've all got to reapply, right? And they got it down to about 7,000. What they did is anyone who had a job, who were born and bred in the borough, their generations could have gone back, 500 years in proper English people. And what they did, one of my friends was one of the victims. He was living in a flat with his mum, 1-bedroom flat, and he was living in the front room for 30 years on the sofa for 30 years in a 1-bedroom council flat. He went to Camden. Can you get me a council flat? No, we haven't got any. Can you put me on the list? No, we can't put you on the list. He's now sleeping in my church, the church where I go to, right? And so what they've done, they've taken off all these people. There was 30,000 people on the list. They got rid of them all to make it look like it's not so bad. But at the same time, they're prioritising refugees. They're housing refugees in Camden because they get extra points. So anyone who's got problems like drug addiction, disabled, refugee, lesbian, gay, they all get housing. If you're Indigenous, British, heterosexual, nothing for you. And
well, this levelling up, Pat. Go on, John. What was you going to say?
Oldham did the same. Our list was 23,000. They scrubbed it, and then just the priority went to overcrowding and poverty, which is not the majority of Oldham. Majority of Oldham is the white British community. The poverty comes from a minority, and we have 3 areas in the top 10 of all the UK that are these poverty areas, and that's what they put it down to. Besides, after the riots, to give them about 13 million to build extras on their houses and that, just ignoring everyone else. And even my dad used to say that. My dad used to say that the money goes on one community is not split between the town. And it wound him up. It winds me up, and it wound my dad up as well when it said that. But
the Tories, John, the Tories have made money available for levelling up between the north and the south and in Midland councils. What has actually happened to that levelling up money in Birmingham, in so many councils in the Midlands, now on the Wirral, The money is being used to build houses or buy houses to provide accommodation for Afghan immigrants. They're going into the big houses and then they're being allowed to bring their families over from Afghanistan. And this is all the levelling up money is just disappearing. I mean, when you buy 10 houses, 10 big houses in a British council, you could be looking at £30 million, the total cost. And they have to have a higher standard for these people. They decorate them. They put in all the beautiful kitchens and bathroom suites and so on. They provide all sorts of disabled facilities and so on. All this levelling up money now is being used to house Afghan immigrants. So the people up north who thought that they were going to benefit, it was going to create jobs, it was going to create better housing, it was going to improve services in areas, neglected parts of Britain or underprivileged parts of Britain. You were all misled. It's not going. And the civil servants who are distributing this money themselves are from South Asia or the bunch of lefties. Now, we haven't talked about the green agenda and the war on the motorists that's being waged by local councils. Again, it's just another way to bleed the British people dry. It's really, they talk, you know, the left likes to talk about social justice, but what all they're effectively doing is stealing off one group and giving it to another. It's theft. And this is all taxation has become in Britain now. It's theft. You think you're putting money into the system for your pensions, but all the time they're increasing the age at which you can claim a pension. They're all the time they're seeking to deprive old people of services. And I'll tell you what, the Labour Party are the worst at this. And who then gets the services? Who gets the money? The Afghans, the Bangladeshis, the people from Senegal. It's absolutely crazy. But unless we, as I say, unless we assert ourselves, unless we get a political vehicle that can make our voices heard, they'll just ignore us. But we have asserted ourselves, and Pat has said some really profound things. We all have. We've spoken truth. John has been a great example in the Manchester area. And the politicians are now starting to recognise that the British people are angry. They know what's going on, and they're frustrated. I mean, even Rishi Sunak now, who's an arch globalist, who's kept the floodgates open, even he's saying we're being overwhelmed by immigration. Now, the rhetoric's there. Let's see if the action follows, because as Pat has always said, unless they leave these international conventions, anything they do can be challenged in the court and overturned. So it's all a farce. But the money's not there anymore. It's time for action. Pat?
Yeah, just to remind people, there's a difference between the ECHR and the United Nations Refugee Convention, two different things. These people coming across on dinghies, they use the UN Refugee Convention to get into the country. They don't use the ECHR to get into the country. Once they're in the country and their asylum claim fails, they then use the ECHR to prevent them getting deported. So it's a minefield, the whole thing. And like Paul said, we got to withdraw from all of them. There's another one as well. There's the European Courts of Human Rights, but there's also the United Nations Human Rights Convention. So we've got it stated on a lot of our social media. We want to leave all three. We want to leave the 1951 UN Refugee Convention. We want to leave the European Court of Human Rights, and we want to leave the United Nations Human Rights Convention. There's another one as well, the European Court of Justice. Is that the one? Have you know that one, Paul? ECJ, European Court of Justice. Yes, so that's like a criminal European court. But both the ECJ and the ECHR, they're not actually connected to the EU. So it's all smoke and mirrors. They're trying to pull the wool over our eyes. But the bottom line is we have to make it illegal to claim asylum now. That is the solution.
So guys, thank you very much. And that hour's nearly up. You've heard us ranting on about councils, and summertime Sue can tell you in the chat that I could go on about Oldham for a year, constantly screaming 24 hours a day. It's that corrupt, but it's no doubt it's the same across the country. Now, if we've got people who are corrupt in power, I want them called out. Just because I'm running and then the left attack me, but they don't say nothing to a root shard. That's what just winds me up. That's why I don't have mates who are convicted kidnappers and sexual torturers. I don't know any people, best friends, who are criminal gangster drug dealers. I don't know these kind of people, but a root shard does, and they're best friends all the time. And the last couple of elections we've had, Irish Immy, this is the convicted gangster, Dale Cregan's getaway driver, has been in the election walking around as a guest. You know what I mean? Now, if I was to take somebody controversial.
But, John, just to remind the viewers, Dale Cregan was the guy who deliberately called the police to his house, said he was getting someone through something through his window, and then he come out and shot dead 2 policewomen. This
blew him up with a grenade, not shot dead, but dropped a grenade right on through and blew him to bits. And one of them worked in Oldham. This is Dale Cregan, and Irish Immy is his getaway driver, not for that particular thing, but he's been a gangster with him. And this is a guy who frequents our council. I don't even know anybody, me, on that level. I don't. I really don't, guys. I don't know anybody on that kind of level of badness. But no, let's all come together, honestly. If you want to run in an election, get in contact with us. It's not hard. It's not hard. You can be a paper candidate, not have to deliver anything. Or if we've got enough people or whatever, we can get your leaflets and get your leaflets delivered. You'll have to put some work into it. But if you want to try it out, just let us know. If you want to be an agent, if you want to be an election agent, then you can be election agent with somebody and we'll show you the ropes and stuff like that, and you'll be able to see what's going on. But
we need contributions, John, for leaflets. Anybody wants to contribute, donate.
Yes, please donate. Our links in the chat. Our links in the chat, PayPal.
There's people watching, and it's not suitable for them to stand. Just ask your friends, ask your family members. You know, there's people out there who want to stand, and they don't know that we've got the best vehicle. The National Housing Party is the most viable vehicle for a new person to step forward into. It's a very debate to win on the doorstep. Million people waiting for council flats. We need to look after our own people first. It's very simple. And like John said, we will support everyone who we can. So thanks for everyone who's donated in the past as well. But we do need more donations for leaflets. We are expanding. We've got the Leicester campaign starting in January. So yeah, it's all looking good. We're prodding along. We're not a massive party. We're not going to tell lies or anything like that. But we got multiple people standing in local elections. We need help. Step forward with whatever you can, finance, manpower. Let us know if you can help us. And
truth is, Pat, we've got God on our side.
Yeah.
We shall overcome. That's our message. We're active, and we've kept this party going. We've expanded over the last year dramatically because we have faith that we can turn things around. That we are saying what needs to be said and what people want to hear. And people are waking up, and there's a political earthquake about to happen in this country, and we're going to be part of it. But I'd like to wish all the viewers a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
Are we doing a stream next Tuesday?
Yeah.
What date will it be,
Tuesday, be Boxing Day.
Right. So
just to let the viewers know that we are a Christian nationalist party, but you don't have to be a Christian to join us. You don't have to be a Christian to come and help us, but we are a Christian party, and we have a Bible study every week, which if you are a Christian, you're welcome to attend. Just get in touch with us. And as it's Jesus' birthday coming up on the 25th, I think Paul Rimmer should give us a little prayer.
A little prayer to finish. Lord, just bless us over this Christmas time. We thank you for coming into the world, for shedding light in the darkness. We want to be agents of light. We want your light to shine in the darkness of this nation. We want to expose criminality and corruption and replace it with decency and with genuine care for our communities. Lord, you are an eternal spirit, and you will never be defeated. You won a victory on the cross, and you came into the world to redeem the world, to save us. And we're on that rescue mission with you. So bless us in the year ahead. Bless all our viewers in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you on Boxing Day, 8 p.m. sharp. I will be out, actually. I won't be at home, but I'll be on. I'll be on. So I'll see you on Boxing Day. And thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Yeah.